Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, y'all are having a wonderful day today. So, I thought that I would review a little bit of this video. We're not going to review the whole thing because it's decently long, and this video would take about 2 hours to make. But it is what it is. So, this one person told me that I should check out Barbershop Converstations, where Drew Titan and Barbershop talk to Sugar Hill Stewart. And this is going to show you that these guys are Deontay Wilder fanboys. All right? It is what it is, and it is not good to be a fanboy when it comes down to the overall. Not to mention completely delusional. And there are certain channels out there where I don't think they actually believe the shit that they're saying. Drew Titan, for example, does believe the shit that he's saying. This dude is actually that delusional. But it is what it is. Let's just see overall what he has to say.
But when I went back, all right, because I didn't want to hear it. After the second fight, I didn't want to hear it. I said, look, my guy lost. Congrats to the Gypsy.
Let's actually rewind this a little bit further.
Fort Wilder, as you can tell. All right. And at first, all right, as you can tell, I support Wilder, as you can tell. All right. And at first, I didn't have a problem with Fury. I didn't have a problem with you training him. But when I went back, all right, because I didn't want to hear it. After the second fight, I didn't want to hear it. I said, look, my guy lost. Congrats to the Gypsy King. I'm good. I ate it.
Now he said my guy lost. So what does that mean? That means that he's a fanboy of Deontay Wilder. He said my guy lost. Now let me tell you something. When you watch a boxing match or you watch anything, you're never supposed to say overall my guy lost. Alright? But because when it comes down to it, that means that you're a fan. You're a fanboy, and you're not supposed to be that when it comes down to the overall. Because those people are over infatuated, and they're not logical, they're not objective. Alright? And it's important that you stay logical and objective. That's why these guys are going on these tirades and these videos overall claiming that Deontay Wilder got cheated. Because Deontay Wilder meant more to them than life itself. But it is what it is.
7 days. People would hit me up. No, you got to see this. You got to see this. You got to. When I looked at it, I said, man, that's not right.
And you didn't want to believe it at first because it broke your heart to even reminisce over that fight between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. And you thought people were just making excuses because they were when it came down to the overall. And you were like, man, I don't even want to relive that. Just let it go. He lost. Because that's what a fanboy does, you know. Because he would have never watched that fight ever again, you know, had these allegations not came to light. All right? But anyway.
And that's what made me go back to the first fight. And I said, shit, how did I miss that?
You know, that's a good question. How have you guys missed all this mountain of evidence before Deontay Wilder got his ass kicked in the rematch? Isn't that interesting? All of a sudden, all these new allegations come out when Deontay Wilder gets his ass whooped. But then apparently, oh my God, did you see him in the Christian Hammer fight? Did you see him in the first Deontay Wilder fight? Did you see him in the Vladimir Klitschko fight? Did you see him in this fight? Did you see, you know, overall the sparring videos? You know, how come all these allegations came out right as soon as Deontay Wilder got his ass kicked? All of a sudden, these, you know, this mountain of evidence that just was never seen before comes out right as soon as Deontay Wilder gets his ass kicked. Interesting.
And then that's when the case started building. So what I'm saying to you is people are not just shooting the shit right now.
They are. But anyway.
This is real things happening. And, you know, you're older than me. I ain't got to tell you to watch your association. But this is a shit show. That people aren't mad for no reason. This guy has a record.
They're mad because Deontay Wilder was the new Black Panther-like figure, and he got his ass whooped. All right? And especially against a Caucasian man. A lot of them were very pissed off about that. Once again, you know, people can tell me this all they want to. I've had a certain amount of people tell me that the LDBC, oh, they're, you know, you're wrong about them. They're just pro-PBC. No, make no mistake about it. The LDBC and new media Although for certain they are pro-PBC, they are also pro-black when it comes down to the overall. And I've had certain people on this, go on my channel and say, well, what's wrong with supporting black fighters? And there's nothing wrong with supporting black fighters. There's nothing wrong with supporting black people or whatever you want to be labeled as. The problem comes in when you tear down other demographics in order to make your demographic look better, or spread false propaganda about other demographics in order to make your demographic shine. That's the problem. And that's what the LDBC and new media does. And I don't care who doesn't like that. So it is what it is.
He has a record. Now, I don't know if you're paying attention or not, but I was so mad. You know what I said about you? You might not know. But I'm going to tell
you. Yeah, you were so mad because you were a fanboy. Once again, this dude is in love with Deontay Wilder. It is what it is.
I said, God damn it. This sellout, man, I hope he dies in a fucking car fire. I said that. That's how angry I got.
That's how angry you got because you were a fanboy, man. When it comes down to it. And I used to be in the same position once upon a time because I think everyone is somewhat of a fanboy, at least in certain stages of their life. I used to be a fanboy when I was younger. But you got to grow out of that shit when it comes down to the overall. I used to be a very big fan of Miguel Cotto. And Miguel Cotto was still one of my favorite fighters to watch, to this day when I watch old clips of him. But I had to grow out of the fanboy stage because it's not healthy and also it doesn't keep you logical and objective. But when it came down to it, I remember hating Antonio Margarito, and do I believe that Antonio Margarito cheated? Yes, I do. I believe he cheated in multiple fights, but it is what it is. When it comes down to it, I remember calling Antonio Margarito a vermin when it came down to it over. I remember saying that Antonio Margarito overall, should be hit by a car or all these other things. Now, do I believe that Antonio Margarito should have been imprisoned? Yeah, probably. But, overall, when it comes down to it, once again, being a fanboy and being over emotional like this, that's not going to get you anywhere. And that's not going to help you out in any regard whatsoever. But anyway.
Because this shit is unfair, Sugar. This is unfair. Now, whether you're being honest with us or not, I'll take you at your word. You haven't gone back to revisit it. You said you haven't watched it. Go back and watch it. And tell me if you feel that it's normal.
I've watched, if you're talking about the rematch, I've watched the rematch 20 times. And I'm not exaggerating on that. I've never seen anything fishy about that fight. Never. And a certain amount of people are going to say, well, how can you explain that Tyson Fury had this power out of nowhere? How can you explain overall that Tyson Fury was just able to knock him out, but he's not able to knock out Otto Wallin? Well, I always bring up Andre Ward for this example. Andre Ward, when he first moved to the light heavyweight division, first he faced a journeyman. I can't even remember the man's name. He didn't knock him out. He didn't knock Sullivan Barrera out. But then when he faced Sergey Kovalev in the rematch, all of a sudden, he stopped Sergey Kovalev. Now, do I think the punches were a little bit low? A little bit, but that's not really the main punch that hurt Sergey Kovalev. It was a right cross to the jaw. It is what it is. I can sit here and allege all I want to. Well, Andre Ward, he must have been cheating in that fight. You're telling me this guy, and Andre Ward, for his division, had less power than, Tyson Fury did for his. So I can sit here and allege overall that, he was cheating and all sort of shit. But he was never caught when it came down to the overall. So I don't really have much of a leg to stand on. Now, of course, a certain amount of these guys will say, well, Tyson Fury was actually caught cheating with his gloves. No, he wasn't. But anyway, once again, there's really no evidence whatsoever that Tyson Fury was ever caught cheating with his gloves. And I know a certain amount of people are going to bring up, well, take a look in the Christian Hammer fight, when it comes down to it. That's already been debunked. And I can tell you overall what the problem was with that fight immediately. It's not that his hand was not all the way into the glove. It's that the strap that sometimes connects the thumb and the rest of the hand, that was snapped off. All right? That, and if you get any boxing equipment, if you've sparred before, you know that shit. These guys are so stupid or trying to, propagate their own narrative. But it is what it is anyway.
Wrist shots, brother. I've never seen. Listen, You got some punches that came out that Kronk gym. I've never seen Tommy Hearns knock a dent in somebody's head. And he hit.
Yeah, and that's so interesting because apparently this technique, this hand lower inside the glove technique, is apparently, overall a Detroit or a Michigan, type of tactic. But yeah, we've never, because the Kronk gym, I believe, is held in Detroit, Michigan. I could be wrong about that. Someone correct me. But yeah, Tommy Hearns overall, we've never heard of Tommy Hearns cheating. We've never heard of, Mayweather cheating, who's from Grand Rapids, Michigan. We've never heard of, Tony Harrison, cheating, but only Tyson Fury, And once again, Tyson Fury, these guys are now alleging, one day they're alleging he cheated for his whole career. Then the next day they're alleging he only cheated with Deontay Wilder, So I don't know which one it is to them. But you're telling me that Tyson Fury, who's had like 3 different trainers over the course of his career, you're telling me that with each and every one he was allowed to cheat, and that they came out with a different cheating tactic? Anyway.
Roberto Duran, dumb hard. I remember that, man. I'm only 45 years old. All right? You got some punches coming out of there. I've never seen your hardest hitters come out and knock a dent in someone's head. Sure, that's not.
Because there is no dent in someone's head. There is no dent in Deontay Wilder's head. There is no actual x-rays that came out about Deontay Wilder. This alleged dent is bullshit. There is no dent in Deontay Wilder's head. And by that, I mean there is no dent in his skull. If there was a dent in his skull, we would hear about Deontay Wilder being in the emergency room and having immediate surgery. That's what happens when you have a dent in your skull. When it comes down to the overall. Deontay didn't have no damn dent in his skull. Now, when you take a look at the fight afterwards, it looks like there could be a dent, but that's only because of the swelling around his ear. And it makes other places look a little bit more swollen, sunken in, because his ear is swelling up. But that's really about it. There is no actual dent in Deontay Wilder's skull, and that's why there was no legit x-rays. There was no Instagram videos of Deontay Wilder saying, hey, look at my face. Look at my face right now. Here's the dent in my skull. Here it is right here, ladies and gentlemen. How do you explain this? There was no videos. There was no legitimate x-rays, no legitimate surgeries, none of that when it comes down to the overall. Because they're full of shit. There was no dent in Deontay Wilder's skull.
Normal. That's not normal. All right?
Yeah, so I was surprised when I saw the picture where I guess it was a dent, when they circled it and said it was a dent. I think it was when Deontay Wilder posted the video. He was like, look, there's a dent on my head. I was surprised.
I never saw a video like that. I never saw a video where Deontay Wilder said, look, there's a dent in my head. All I saw was a picture from the LDBC. That's all I saw. But anyway.
It was the first time I ever saw or ever heard about a dent being on the head like that. So yeah, that was something that was strange for me to see. I don't think I've seen that in boxing before. I've seen broken noses, swollen eyes, and the whole side of it. I've seen all that stuff, but
sure, I've seen. So I'm not to cut you off, but I've seen some injuries. Like I said, I've never been pro. I done fucked around with people in the Golden Gloves. I grew up in gyms. I've seen a lot of stuff. All right, I used to be at Roberto Clemente State Park. The big dog in there was Mitch Blood Green in the early 80s. I've seen him hurt people. I've seen him swole up eyes. I mean, hell, Mike Tyson bust his shit, his eyes swole up, but he didn't knock with a bare fist. He didn't knock a dent in a man's head with a glove with padding.
So what are you alleging? Once again, you're alleging overall that there had to be an egg weight in there. When it comes down to the overall, that's what you're alleging. And I've already done a video on this. It was my Deontay Wilder fans are delusional part 3. At least I believe, when it comes down to the overall. Once again, I've already alleged this. If you have this egg weight in there, how come this 100% authentic picture, allegedly, when it comes down to the overall, how come it comes out overall and we see Tyson Fury's 4 knuckles instead of an imprint of an egg weight? Why do we see this deflated glove in these 100% authentic pictures, according to the LDBC and new media? Why do we see his 4 knuckles and not an imprint of an egg weight? When did he get that egg weight in there? When did he take it out? Because it had to be mid-fight. But anyway.
This don't happen. It's not, and you just said it's not normal. This is not normal. So all I could, like I said, you're a grown ass man. I can't tell you to watch your association, but this guy, all right, the detached thumb in that fight against Christian Hammer, I'm sure his trainers.
And once again, when it comes down to it, like I said, all that was that the strap was broken on the thumb, that should have been attached to the rest of the hand of the glove. That's all that was. And that's why the referee had a cutting motion between the thumb and the index finger. But these idiots were trying to make it seem like, oh, well, that was an obvious sign that his hand was lower into the glove. All these fucking morons, man. And once again, a lot of these people, they don't truly believe this. They're just trying to take you guys for a ride. But anyway.
Probably like, I ain't had nothing to do with that. I don't know what the fuck that is. The drugs, okay?
Oh, that's right. The alleged drugs. Deontay Wilder, let it be on the record, Mark Breland spiked his water. Isn't it interesting how JD's apparently is not in on this as well, because he was the one watching Tyson Fury get his hand wrapped. And there was that little white, thing overall that was dropped from the corner from JD's. But why are they not alleging that JD's was a part of this? You know why that is? Because Deontay Wilder said that he wasn't. And they have to go off of Deontay Wilder's word. All right? Because if they don't go off of Deontay Wilder's word, they're going to look stupid. And a lot of the allegations overall are not going to carry as much weight. Because then it's going to look like they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Which they really don't. But anyway.
He had a win, a change to a no contest. This guy is a criminal. And to justify, and I'm not saying you, because you might be in the dark, to justify what this guy has done, because I firmly believe that he's a cheater.
Of course you do, because you're a Deontay Wilder fanboy. But anyway.
Justify what he's done, it doesn't make you a fan of the sport. It just makes people assholes. That's what it is. I wouldn't be on here if I didn't believe he cheated. I didn't want to hear about anything. All I know is that my dude lost. And I ate that.
That my dude lost. And that's all I keep hearing. When Tyson Fury won the fight or something like that, you're never going to hear me say, well, my dude won. When, if Teofimo Lopez, when he beats Vasily Lomachenko, you're never going to hear me say, well, my dude won. Or anything like that. Once again, this is not a fan channel. All right, it is what it is. I don't do that shit around here. Now, there are certain fighters that I like to watch more than other fighters. That I do root for, but that doesn't mean that I'm a fanboy of them. You're never gonna hear me say, "Well, my guy lost." That just don't happen. But anyway.
But then when you give me this evidence, it held weight. And then when you go back and look at his history, it cannot be ignored. It can't be ignored. I've done videos about it. I have a case. If I took him to court with all of this evidence, the judge would have no choice but to look at it and take it into consideration. Granted, his history. Now,
he has no history. He has no history of cheating with gloves. And that's the problem. These guys have been trying to pull this bullshit out of their ass saying that, oh, he has a history. No, he doesn't. Now, the PEDs might be possibly something overall to look into. But this glove shit is just stupid.
You may not know it. You might have been like, okay, you just said he was rapping. He was wrapping his hands. You had no idea what was going on with that camera. All right? You had no idea.
And they bring up overall how the camera was cut off. You know what's interesting and something that a lot of these guys won't bring up, or they call it the new distraction from the truth, is that Deontay Wilder apparently had last-minute gloves shipped in, and he had his gloves switched, which is interesting. Now, that's something that's actually possibly concerning, but they won't bring that up when it comes down to the overall. Anyway.
They're telling you, yo, he unplugged the camera. That's not normal. If you found out that Deontay Wilder unplugged his cameras and he knocked a dent in Fury's forehead and KO'd him in the third round, and you found that he unplugged the cameras, wouldn't you ask, yo, what's that about? Wouldn't you at least ask, what's that about? Because that's not normal. Suge.
Well, sure. If there was an actual dent in Tyson Fury's head. But the problem is that there is no dent in Deontay Wilder's head. Anyway.
They waved goodbye to us and unplugged the camera. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah. Yes. So you saying you don't know? They went just like this and unplugged the camera. That happened. I'm not lying. That really happened.
So when they unplugged the camera, so then that has something to do with me. So as I stated before, my normal routine was what it was. JD's was in there. He was right there. There's always a...
I agree. Which also means that if Tyson Fury did cheat, JD's must have been in on it. But they're not saying that JD's was in on it because they can't. Because Deontay Wilder said overall that JD's was a, clean trainer. So they can't go against their king, Deontay Wilder. Their king of Wakanda, their new king of Wakanda and Deontay Wilder. Once again, for the people overall that allege that the LDBC is just pro-PBC, there's a reason why they go behind Deontay Wilder harder than anybody else. All right. But anyway.
Representative there. So he touched the pants, he touched the gloves, he touched everything. He was okay with everything. So something to do with that camera.
That's right. When it comes down to it. So that means what? If Tyson Fury did cheat, JD's was in on it. All right. So Deontay Wilder has more than just one crab in the bucket in his corner. But anyway.
Honestly, really, I don't even care about no camera. What that camera got to do with anything? The commissioner's there and JD's there. The camera's just a plus for the fans. That's just
Mauricio Suleiman also said he was in both rooms.
It's entertaining to watch the guys inside the locker room, things like that. That got nothing to do with the fight. You got the committee, you got somebody from his camp there. His trainer is there. He's supposed to be who looks out for his well-being. His trainer was there. The same as I had a fighter. I had a representative from my team over there watching Wilder get his hands wrapped. If something was wrong, it should have been said then.
Mm-hmm. If something was wrong, it should have been said then.
No cameras. Somebody covering the camera don't mean nothing because you got the commission there still. That's just for the fans to see. It's part of entertainment.
I'm sure the commission was there when Margarito's hands got wrapped too.
Well, Margarito's cheating tactic was a little bit harder to catch when it comes down to the overall. And Margarito's not the only one that's done that in boxing history. Unfortunately, it just has not got caught with a certain amount of fighters. But it is what it is. But you're alleging that he put an egg white in his glove. That's something overall that would be much, much harder to catch when it comes down to the overall. Anyways, I'm not really seeing anything in this video that convinces me of anything. I just thought that I would review it. Because one dude brought it up and I said, okay, I might review a little bit of it. But that's really about the end of this video. Once again, the Deontay Wilder fan base is extremely delusional and over-emotional. But it is what it is. That's really about it for today. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll talk to you all later.